Hello, listeners. This is Janine
and Kristen
from Henrico Casa. You are listening to our podcast, Vigilant Voices.
Living life every day.
Hello, listeners. We hope you're doing well and enjoying this beautiful day.
I know we are. Well, or at least we will once we slip out of the recording studio, right?
Yeah, no sunshine is penetrating these walls.
Yes.
But we're so grateful for this recording studio that Henrico County shares with us.
Oh, absolutely. Our county is so good to us. And what I love is that they understand and know that our entire mission is focused on serving the children.
Yeah,
right?
and the judges, right?
Yes. In this county, and that we are always working to know more about the challenges facing children and families in our community to ensure that no child faces continued abuse, neglect, or trauma.
Right. And one of the specific challenges that children who've experienced trauma face revolves around attachment, which is basically the idea of forming a strong, healthy connection with, a safe adult in your life.
And it's completely understandable why this is a challenge because the adults in their life haven't been safe.
Right.
And they haven't provided for their needs. Maybe they've even hurt them. And so, of course, then there's this block in terms of trusting and really connecting with adults.
Yeah, and that was definitely the case with little Rachel, who I wanted to share about in today's CASA story. When a CASA advocate was appointed to serve Rachel, she was the subject of a custody case. A relative had submitted a motion for custody because Rachel was living with her birth mother, who was struggling with addiction, and her birth father, who had mental health problems.
Right.
So there was a lot going on. And at the time, we didn't totally know what Rachel had witnessed in her home. But based on what the relative was telling us, it probably wasn't good.
Right. Which is why CASA is needed, to help sift through all of the information presented in cases like these, understand that child's circumstances, to help determine, what that child has been exposed to, but then also more importantly, okay, what do they need moving forward?
Right. And we're so thankful that Rachel's advocate was willing to show up for Rachel and invest time in building a bond with her.
Right. And every time, I listen to these cases that you share, it just reinforces to me that that children who experience abuse or neglect, they really do often just miss out on what should be joy and just like vitality of relationships, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Positive relationships are just life-giving, in a sense. And to not have those kinds of relationships, or to have relationships with adults that are like the complete opposite, negative and stressful, it's so taxing to a child.
Probably to all of us in some ways, though, right? Okay, but of course.
That is true. No relationship is perfect. And without a doubt, no parent-child relationship is perfect. But when those relationships with parents or caregivers are developed in a healthy way, right, they play a really important role in the child's overall development.
So true. They offer a stability that children need. They're a foundation for all future emotional bonds and attachments.
Yeah.
And so in so many ways, the parent-child relationships or, any positive adult-child relationship mirrors or predicts what that child's future relationships will likely look like.
Yeah, it really does. And so we want to build strong relationships, right, with children at CASA in order for them to build and maintain strong relationships in the future. And I think we've learned that play can be the key.
Which I love. And without a doubt, that's true. And so play is such an effective tool for building relationships with children. And it's also fun.
Yes.
Right? So
what
a double, right? A double bonus on this. But our advocates use play all of the time, right? To try to connect with the children that they're working with. And we find that play is a wonderful entryway to building the relationships.
Yeah. And honestly, building resilience in general, right?
Totally.
Yeah. When you play with children, I think sometimes it could seem frivolous or, fun, or I don't want to say pointless, but I think sometimes we approach it like that. But really, we've got to look at it like an opportunity to build trust, right? It's joyful, it's uplifting. There's a pattern, a consistency, a structure that kind of helps them feel safe, right? Taking turns, following the game rules, clapping when someone wins. There's just like this positive cadence when you use play to interact with kids.
You're right. And it's up to us as the adults to set that tone or cadence, right? I mean, they are 100% just following our lead in those moments.
Yeah, yeah. And over time, they could take the lead.
Right.
But first they have to learn from watching us. Right.
And, play is also an opportunity to do what we call like self-regulation. So there's this excitement, of the play. But then maybe if it was a game, you lost the game. And so you don't feel as good. You feel let down. But then you learn how to, soothe yourself and move on to play something else or play again. We're playing together and we're not giving up on each other. We're
we're rooting for each other.
We're going through processes too. And I think that positive interaction can then carry into everything else, right, that you do together. So there's this sense of, well, we can do hard things, we can navigate challenges, and I can trust you because we also have this positive baseline for our relationship as well.
Yeah, and honestly, here's the thing, and I'm just as guilty as this as anyone. It can feel like there isn't time for play, right? During our busy days. We have to get this homework done. We can't play now. It's time to make dinner. We can't go outside, and so on. But here's what I've learned personally. It's that investing time into playing makes everything else go smoother right after you play. It's like you're filling their tank with what they need to feel safe and loved, and then you can just move forward with everyone's tank full.
Yeah, it's well said. And I think you're right. It's like, how can you not take the time when there's such a big payoff in terms of that child gaining such positives from feeling safe, valued, trusted, et cetera, right?
Yeah, so true, so true. And so, listener, here are our 3 tips for how to add a little more play to your day or to your time with the children in your life.
Which hopefully will be fun.
Yeah.
But even more importantly, strengthen a child's attachment, because attachment is vital for all of the positive outcomes that we want for all of these kids, right?
Definitely, definitely. And I'm going to link these tips in our show notes because I really like how they're summed up in this particular article I found by Tanager. It's an organization in Iowa. So look to the show notes. But okay, so tip 1 is really easy. Just turn everyday activities into opportunities for play.
Yeah, all right. So if you approach play in this way, then, well, you can't not have the time, right?
Right. And maybe some of the chores on your list will get done.
All right. So maybe that's something like, who can clean up these crayons the fastest? Or who can get all of the toy cars back in my bag?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's simple.
So simple. And it's things that need to be done, right? And anything you can turn into a race or a challenge ups the fun factor. Isn't an opportunity to build resilience. Let's ball up this trash and pretend the trash can is a basketball hoop. Whoops, I missed the basket. But I'm okay, right? This task is difficult, but I can do it.
Yeah.
So on,
right?
Yeah.
Some good examples there, I think. All right. So tip number 2 is also pretty simple. Set aside just 15 minutes for special connection time each day.
Yeah. And those 15 minutes become something the child can count on, and when they can count on it, they know to look forward to it.
Right.
It's short but sweet. I know that I get to do an obstacle course with mom after school every day.
Right.
Or I know that I get to color with my CASA advocate for the last few minutes that we're together.
We don't need long, drawn-out play sessions to connect. I've actually seen studies that talk a lot about it's the quality of the time and not necessarily the quantity.
Right.
So really think in terms of lots of brief, positive connections that are meaningful.
Definitely. And what I like about that is that for children who maybe have a difficult time connecting
or concentrating even.
Yeah. And they kind of have to psych themselves up maybe to talk about something or interact with someone. Those kids can count on that established time, right? They know they will have an opportunity to talk, to get your attention. It can almost be like a playful check-in of sorts that
I like
you create.
That. That's a good, like a playful check-in's a good description, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And so then tip number 3 is to build playful rituals into your interactions. Maybe it's rock, paper, scissors to see who takes a bath first, or a race around the yard before you get in the car. For one of our CASA advocates, maybe it's a secret handshake. Every time you see your child, that's what you pull out first.
Right. And I think what I hear is that the key seems to just be making it intentional.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. It's short, it's sweet, it's fun. It has so many positive benefits for building a strong relationship. just be intentional about it, right? The phrase I saw in the article I read was repetitive relational rhythms.
Oh, I like that. I like the alliteration too, but that's good. So, all right. So going back, Kristen, to Rachel and our Casa story, did she have someone being playful with her?
Yes, she did. Okay. So her CASA advocate recognized the value of play and took time to see where Rachel was in terms of her social and emotional development. You know, Rachel couldn't really stomach like eye contact or direct questions and direct interactions. So her CASA kind of adjusted the plan, right? She would play things like hide and seek, where it was a game, but it had limited direct interaction.
I mean, what if Rachel never would have found her though, right?
Actually, this advocate actually did say she was like sitting in a closet thinking, was this a good idea?
Yeah, exactly. This might be really hard.
Right.
Oh, that's so funny.
But this advocate also then incorporated tea parties into her visits. And
like
that was perfect for this little one and the situation because they could kind of sit side by side. Again, like no direct eye contact and chit chat. And sometimes that opened up opportunities to ask Rachel about her mom and dad and what they did together and to learn more about what her family life had been like.
I love that. I love tea as well.
Yes.
So I think it sounds like the perfect way to connect, engage with Rachel. But that sounded like a wonderful solution.
Yes. And, you know, Rachel shared enough during these little tea parties to make it clear that it wasn't safe or healthy for her to remain in the custody of her birth parents. And so the relative who had filed a motion ended up taking custody of Rachel and giving her all of the safety and stability she needed.
And I can only hope that little Rachel is getting lots of positive playtime now. So, listener, you can probably guess what our call to action is today, and it is to play.
Yay. And okay, let's be a little more specific. Why don't you, listener, choose an everyday activity, a chore, a task, a consistent routine, something, and make it playful?
And see what a difference it makes in your relationship with a child.
Thank you for listening to Vigilant Voices, Henrico Casa's new podcast. We have a vision for all children to live in safe, healthy homes. You can help us make that happen. Tell a friend about our podcast and find us on social media.
I believe in the better days.